Today we're getting into the latest tech, EV, and Tesla news, including the new premium Model 3 starting production, new Model Y standard features unveiled, my experience with the Meta Ray-Ban display glasses, and more, so let's get into it, and a special thanks to AG1 for sponsoring this video. First up today, when the Cybertruck first launched, there were a lot of assumptions about how safe this vehicle would be. But as we've seen with crash test safety, it keeps doing incredibly well. And recently, IAHS posted a video breaking down the comparison between the F-150 Lightning on their crash tests and the Cybertruck. They said overall it's great news for both vehicles, but the first thing they talked about was pedestrian crash prevention. The Cybertruck had great performance in every single scenario they tested, night and day, and it avoided every single crash. For the F-150 Lightning, on the other hand, it reduced the impact speed in one scenario but didn't actually avoid it. Then it avoided the rest. Regarding headlights, they gave the F-150 Lightning an acceptable rating here, but the Cybertruck they said had too much glare, so that's where it got a poor rating. For their newest test, the moderate overlap, the F-150 Lightning got poor here because of issues specifically for the passengers in the back of the cab. For the Cybertruck, it got a good rating and did really well. They did mention one thing here that looks like flexing in the front door that could be a bad sign for the cabin, but they said this is independent of the main structure, so it's not actually an issue. Overall, it performed very well, and it's interesting to see how much safer it is than the F-150 Lightning in a lot of these scenarios. In today's busy world, it's pretty easy to fall behind on your nutrition goals, but something that helps me is today's sponsor, AG1. AG1 is a clinically backed daily health drink that combines your multivitamin, pre- and probiotics, superfoods, and antioxidants into one delicious, simple scoop. I've been drinking AG1 for 3 years at this point, and I've noticed improved digestion and fewer cravings over those years. AG1 Next Gen is clinically shown to support gut health and fill in common nutrient gaps with 5 probiotic strains and over 75 vitamins and minerals. It replaces the need for a multivitamin, probiotics, and more. And of course, it's super simple. Here's my shaker, and then I have a travel pack of berry, which I'm going to go for today. This is the AG1 Next Gen. All I have to do is mix this in with 8 ounces of water right here, shake it up, and then I'm good to go. It's available in 4 flavors: original, tropical, berry, and citrus, to add some variety to your daily routine as well. To try AG1 for yourself, go to drinkag1.com/Ryan Shaw or scan the QR code on screen. New subscribers will get a free welcome kit, which includes a bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2 and free AG1 travel packs. Thanks to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Next up today, Tesla has updated both the Model Y and Model 3 in a number of ways recently, but the new 2026 Model 3 has officially started production at Tesla's Fremont factory. This is now referred to as the premium version of this car because it's not the stripped back version. The Model 3 Premium has started production and includes all black logos around the exterior, a turn signal stock, and the front bumper camera with a washer. So that's a big reversal on that turn signal stock, but I think it's good to see overall. People just prefer this. Even though Tesla wants to remove all controls because in the future you won't need them because of full self-driving, in their view, for now we still need them. One particular version of this car that we're now seeing is all black. This is something people will sometimes do after delivery, but here it comes this way with black paint and black logos direct from the factory. It's definitely a specific look, but if you get the black paint, that's what you're getting now with the Model 3, which is a very interesting change across the board. They're pretty much getting rid of chrome on all of their cars at this point, at least their most popular ones. Then we've been getting more details about the standard Model Y as it's popping up in showrooms. And one detail here is that it features a soft close front trunk. This is the first time we've seen this, because typically you have to be very gentle closing any of the frunks on Tesla vehicles. Now this is a soft close, so you can close it however you need, like a normal hood, and I think this is a good change because it's one of those quirks that probably most people messed up when they first got these cars. How are you supposed to know that? Overall, this car seems to look pretty good as people are seeing it, but the front trunk is a bit perplexing. It's smaller and left very open here, seemingly to cut cost, but how much cost is that really saving there to leave a lot of this open and just not looking nearly as clean as it does? Of course, we want them to save on cost, and maybe they have the data showing the very low percentage of the time that people open their front trunk, but it is an interesting change to see regardless. Now, the Model Y standard has launched in the United States and Europe, but it should be coming to Canada quite soon here. It was recently spotted, covered up in Canada, indicating they're doing final testing there and getting ready to launch this. That market would make a lot of sense for this car. Right now, Tesla is only shipping this in 3 colors, but soon we should see the addition of all of the other colors that they make. This seems to be the case because renders have been spotted in Quicksilver, Ultra Red, Glacier Blue, and Deep Blue Metallic. So Tesla is probably going to launch those in the fairly near future after they do an initial run in those base 3 colors. Now, over in China, sales have rebounded for Tesla as a whole in September, with 90,812 vehicles delivered, domestic and exports. That's up 2.8% year over year and up 9.2% from August. That rebound is largely driven by the introduction of the new 6-seat long wheelbase Model YL, which was launched specifically in China on August 19th. The Model YL is priced around $47,600 and is about 30% more expensive than the base Model Y in China. It offers a driving range up to 751 kilometers, uses a high-performance battery from LG Energy Solutions, and of course, initial demand was very strong with over 120,000 orders placed within 2 weeks. That was an average of about 10,000 a day. From January through September, Tesla China delivered 606,364 vehicles, which is down 10.3% year over year due to a weak first half performance. But in Q3 alone, deliveries totaled 241,890, which made up over 48% of Tesla's global deliveries as a whole. Overall, it's a sign that things are looking good in China and that the Model YL is specifically helping a lot there. It was probably incredibly necessary, and we'll see if it becomes necessary in the United States and other markets as well. I know a lot of people really want this car to come to other markets. Next up today, in the United States, NHTSA has opened an investigation by its Office of Defects Investigation into Tesla's full self-driving software. This probe, of course, covers 2.88 million Tesla vehicles equipped with full self-driving, both FSD supervised and FSD beta. The investigation focuses on alleged traffic violations while FSD is engaged. Some of those include driving through red lights or not remaining stopped at red signals. I personally have noticed a couple times where it definitely wants to turn red on a signal that is marked with no turn on red, so I have to stop it there. But other issues include entering or turning into oncoming traffic lanes, crossing double yellow lines, or making illegal lane changes. I've seen a couple of these in the Cybertruck specifically, and then when it comes to lane changes, it always wants to cross over and out of the HOV lane whenever it wants, which is crossing a double line. As part of this case data, NHTSA cites 58 reported incidents involving FSD mode, of which 14 resulted in crashes and 23 in injuries. Some crashes reportedly occurred at the same intersection in Maryland, triggering coordinated efforts by local authorities, NHTSA, and Tesla to address that issue specifically. People also say that FSD sometimes fails to provide warnings or adequate driver alerts before executing unexpected maneuvers. So there's a lot here, and it is a very interesting thing to see, because I think some of this is true, but at the end of the day, you're still responsible for taking over if FSD is going to do anything improper here. Regardless, NHTSA is going to examine how much advance warning drivers receive, how much time they have to intervene, and whether FSD reliably detects traffic signals, lane markings, wrong way signs, and railway crossings. For now, this is a preliminary evaluation, but if defects are confirmed to pose an unreasonable risk, it could lead to a recall. That would of course be a software recall that then Tesla would have to patch with the latest version of FSD, and they might already be on that latest version by the time this all goes through. Tesla, of course, has not yet issued a public comment or a response to this probe. Another very interesting piece of this will probably involve speed limits, and it raises a lot of questions for full self-driving and robotaxis in the future. I think when we think of the long future, where everything is self-driving, it completely obeying traffic laws and driving exactly the speed limit will be totally reasonable. But when customers are using this day to day, they actually want it to drive over the speed limit a lot of times, because many people drive over the speed limit in many markets. So the period between fully manual driving and fully self-driving is a very interesting one, and that's where we are right now, and we're seeing investigations like this as a result. Now, speaking of the FSD system itself, of course Tesla is always working on it, and we've now entered the phase where we should see a ton of new V14 versions throughout the next year. One big change that should be coming soon is the addition of a bunch of autopilot assets to display on screen. These are the cars and other things that pop up to show you that the cameras are recognizing what is around you. Now, if you use it long enough, you'll see certain weird things, like an elongated bus representing a train, 2 cars representing a truck pulling a trailer, a person walking around representing pretty much every other small object on the road, and more. But now Tesla hacker Green has found that they are adding an ambulance, a fire truck, a garbage truck, and a school bus, along with a European semi-truck, golf cart, scooter, skateboard, stroller, street sweeper, three-wheeler and trailer, and then lastly a train, tram, and wheelchair. Here's a look at all of those assets together, including previous ones as well. I'm very curious to see how the system does recognizing these things and then accurately displaying them on screen. These assets don't necessarily have to be used, but I imagine the system already recognizes most of these things, but just didn't have something to display. You would see something there, and it's quite weird and shocking to see that it's not at all the same object, but it does know that something's there, and it just needed the right thing to place there to display it for you. In any case, for the robotaxi, Tesla could be expanding into Arizona quite soon here, which is one of the main markets where Waymo operates. Robotaxi validation vehicles were spotted driving near Gilbert, Arizona this past week, so we could see that launch coming soon, and then it's a question of whether that safety monitor will be in the passenger seat or in the driver's seat. This past week also marked 1 year since Tesla unveiled the official robotaxi Cybercab at their We Robot event, which was at Warner Brothers in Los Angeles. According to the lead engineer on the robotaxi project itself, though, quote, "It's so good and way better than it was a year ago as well." That current version is undergoing a lot of testing, so it seems like Tesla is getting ready for something here. But of course, this is a project that heavily relies on the latest versions of FSD, and FSD actually being achieved where you don't need a steering wheel or pedals, because that's how the Cybercab is designed. The latest version was spotted at Giga Texas in the crash test facility, and then also spotted at the Fremont test track in California. Now for FSD version 14, Tesla just released 14.1.1 as kind of a rapid follow-up to 14.1 in response to initial tester feedback. It addresses tester complaints about lack of smoothness and sudden brake stabbing in complex driving situations, and the release notes are pretty much identical to version 14.1, indicating that this is basically just a bug fix and tuning update rather than one with new features. Usually we'd see 14.2 come if we're getting actually new features. Now this update is being distributed to the same group of early access testers for validation, and the Cybertruck is not yet supported as it remains on a separate development track because of the all-wheel steering system. Also, the interesting thing here is we're getting these other features like 3D maps and Tron mode for other versions of software, but early beta testers of FSD won't actually see these same features because they're on a different branch of the software. Eventually, these things will merge and you'll have all of the features together with the latest version of FSD, and it will be available to everyone, but it's just a question of how long it takes to get there. Next up today, Time Magazine has compiled a list of the Best Inventions Hall of Fame, covering the 25 most iconic inventions that they specifically covered in their magazine in the past quarter century. These include things like the iRobot Roomba, which is, of course, a robot vacuum that was invented in 2002, LifeStraw, a low-cost personal water filter from 2005, YouTube from 2006, the iPhone from 2007, along with Google Maps in the same year, the LED light bulb in 2009, Kickstarter in 2010, the Mars rover in 2012, things like the Nintendo Switch, and much more, but one specific one they mentioned is the Tesla Model S, which redefined what an electric sedan could do in 2012. They say that this marked a turning point for electric vehicles, and they highlight the fact that the Model S offered the stylings of a luxury car with a range of 265 miles on a single charge in an all-electric package. Of course, it had a large touchscreen interface controlling functions like the navigation and suspension, but Time notes that the Model S's success pushed other automakers to make EVs more appealing and allowed Tesla to build momentum for later models like the Model 3. Overall, I think if you're a fan of Tesla or you generally follow them, this should be pretty obvious that all of these things are true from the Model S, but it's cool to see it recognized by Time Magazine. Last up today, some updates from other automakers and tech companies. First up, over at Meta, they recently have launched the new version of their Meta AI glasses. These are the new Meta Ray-Bans, the new Meta Oakleys, and then their new Meta Ray-Ban display glasses. Those standard glasses feature a lot of the same things, like the camera and AI features, but they double the battery life and then deliver 3K video instead of 1080p. It's good noticeable improvements if you truly use these glasses every day, but overall it's pretty much the same product. However, the new most exciting product from them, because it's a new product category basically, is the Meta Ray-Bans display. They're now out, and you only can buy them with a demo appointment where you try them out first in person. And I did one of these appointments at Best Buy, so here are my thoughts. First, there are two sizes, the standard and large. The large is very large. Even for me with a fairly large head, it was too big, so I went with the standard ones. The neural wristband is what you use to control this device, and it's very good and responsive, although it does need to be fairly tight on your wrist. At first I had a little bit of Apple Vision muscle memory because I wanted things to be controlled by eye tracking and kept wanting to click that way, and you tap the same to select things, but the only way that you navigate around is by swiping like this, and then you tap the control. Soon it made a lot of sense, and they walked me through a whole demo here. I will say certain parts of this demo were a little bit laggy since they were casting it to a phone to help guide me through, and I do wish that wasn't there. That was a little unfortunate. Now the display part of these glasses is particularly cool because it's high quality, it's bright, and then it's not really seen from the outside. People can't really tell that you're looking at a display, which is very impressive. It's only in the right eye though, which is quite weird at first. You do get used to it, but then I did have eye strain at the end of my appointment. I would guess that I would get used to that in time, but still I felt it. It's impressive quality and very bright. For the camera, it's very cool because you have a viewfinder built into the display. So you can zoom in and out by kind of twisting an imaginary dial like this with the neural wristband detecting that, and you can do the same with video while recording. Overall, that's an improvement from the other glasses where you're just blindly taking photos. For video though, it's only 1080 compared to 3K with those updated glasses, and that seems to be one of the compromises they had to make in order to deliver the display in a fairly standard package of glasses. Live captions are something they demoed, which is very quick and good, and very cool to see. Then live translation similarly works well. They were doing Spanish to English. I think these will be particularly great accessibility features for the future, but for myself, I don't really see myself needing those live captions. Then they showed me maps, which could be quite cool in certain areas when walking around. Areas you don't quite know and need navigation, but you're walking around and don't want to keep pulling out your phone. You don't need to keep looking down, and I think that's pretty cool. They also demoed music, which seemed to be a bit better than the other glasses for the speakers, but it was hard to tell in a loud Best Buy. Then other things these have are messages, but you can't demo that, and then Instagram similarly, you can't demo. Honestly, the base glasses have a lot of the same features as these display ones, but of course the display ones have that display, so they come in at $800. Ultimately, the screen is pretty small, but it's a very cool preview at the future. I think right now we kind of have polar opposites when it comes to this technology. We have the Apple Vision on the most expensive side. That's a bulky product, but it's the most impressive possible version of VR tech. The pass-through is also very, very good, but of course you have this massive thing on your head. They tried to do that display on the front that shows fake eyes, but I think it just ended up creepy. On the complete other side, you have these Meta Ray-Ban display glasses. They're a very simple display and have simple functionality, but it kind of shows us where we're going. And I think the midpoint here will be the future of this technology that can actually replace things like cell phones. Still, it's quite weird to get used to. Even though I was looking through standard clear glasses, you start feeling like you're looking at the world through pass-through. Even though you aren't. You're actually looking at the world with a screen on top of it, but I still felt like I wasn't actually looking at this person, which ultimately will be a downside of this technology. I think the big downside is that, yes, you will be looking up and you won't be looking down at your phone, but you're still distracted. Is that any better than pulling out your phone? I'm not really sure, but it is a very cool technology to try out. Ultimately, I decided not to proceed with purchase, even though I still kind of want to convince myself because it's a cool technology. Next up, over at Chevy, the Chevy Equinox is now the top-selling non-Tesla EV in the United States, ranking, of course, just behind the Model Y and 3. In Q3 of 2025, Chevy sold more than 25,000 Equinox EVs, bringing its year-to-date total through September to nearly 53,000 units. This puts the Chevy Equinox ahead of competitors like the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which sold about 41,962, and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 at 41,091. A few other EVs also passed the 20,000 mark for Q3, including the F-150 Lightning, VW ID4, and Chevy Blazer EV. But ultimately, I think we know the reason why the Equinox is succeeding here. It's because it starts at $35,000 for a 319-mile range. Now, of course, we don't know how much money GM's actually making on these, if they're making anything, but a $35,000 EV with over 300 miles of range is very appealing, and it's why they're selling a lot of them. Unfortunately, for 2026, the Equinox EV will actually see a slight price increase, up to $36,495, but still that's very good. It remains GM's most affordable electric vehicle option, though Chevy soon plans to announce the Bolt EV at around $30,000. That's all the latest tech, EV, and Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see all of the ways that you can add range back to your EV or Tesla after owning it, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.